USC Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work. Welcome to our Student Success webinar series. This is the third part of a 6-part series designed to onboard students into the USC Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work. As we mentioned to students just a bit earlier, if you've missed the previous 2 sessions, we do have those recorded. My colleague Myra Gomez has dropped that link into the chat box, and so you can access those previous recordings. For students that may have to jump out of this a bit early or attend a little bit late, we'll record this one and we'll put that on our website as well. And so today's topic, we will be covering field education. And so with us today, I have Ruth Supranovich, Clinical Associate Professor of Social Work and the Director of Field Education, as well as Chen Hsiao, Clinical Associate Professor of Social Work and the Associate Director of Field Education. I will turn it over to them just a bit, but I wanted to let you all know, you will have an opportunity for questions at the end of the presentation. So we will open that up. Feel free, when you raise your hand during the question time, we'll unmute you and then we'll allow you to ask the question, or you can use the chat feature, the chat box, or the Q&A pod, either one. Along the way, if you run into any technical difficulties, my colleague Myra Gomez is on the line and she's supporting. If you have any technical difficulties, just let her know. There she is. And we'll see if we can troubleshoot that along the way. So with that being said, let me turn it over to Professor Supranovich.
Hello and welcome to our webinar about field education. So do you want to move on to the next slide, Sue? Okay, we'll just introduce ourselves. So as Ron said, I am the Director of Field Education. I've been in this position now for, oh gosh, a year and a half, couple of years nearly, but I was a field faculty prior to that and have been with USC since 2012. So coming on 10 years now. Have always been in field education. It's the heart and soul of your MSW program, and I'm excited to share more with you about that today. And now, Dr. Hsiao, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the USC Suzanne Dworak-Peck School of Social Work. I'm very excited. Welcome, children. I am a 2-time Trojan myself. I got my MSW here at USC in 1990. Don't ask me how old, but I got it a while back. And then I also got my doctorate in the School of Public Policy, 2018. So my experience has been really clinical. I work at the Department of Mental Health, also Department of Health Services, both public and private sector. I work in a hospital as a medical social worker a year back, and then also have worked in the Los Angeles Unified School District. So both Dr. Supranovich and myself come from the clinical world, and then we're here at the USC. So I joined USC in 2010. So it's been over 21 years, and 12 years. So I'm really excited to welcome you. We'll share more later on with our field education.
So what we are going to talk about today, we're going to give you an overview of field education. We're going to tell you a little about the field team and the field placement process. Dr. Hsiao will do the majority of those kind of details for you. I'm going to talk a little bit about, we're hoping there won't be an impact of COVID, but we are going to kind of let you know what we've learned from having dealt with the pandemic for the last year and a half, and what to kind of expect and how we may deal with some of the uncertainty going forward as you join us this fall. And then we're going to share a little bit of the resources. So that's what you can expect to hear today. So let me just start off by saying that field education is, it's not just part of the curriculum, it's a really large part of the curriculum. We are a practice profession. And so you're going to spend a lot of your time in this program practicing what you're learning. And the place you're going to practice that is in your field placement, doing your internships. So during the 4 semesters of the program that you are in field, we've got here on this slide kind of tells you how you are going to complete the 1,000 hours of field internship across the program. So in the first semester and the second semester, it's got the minimum number of hours there. We say minimum hours because You may find that you do quite a bit more than that, depending on where you are, what opportunities arise, but there is a minimum because there is the requirement of fulfilling the hours. And it usually averages out to be about 16 hours per week for the first 2 semesters you're in field. When you're in your second year and in your third and fourth semesters, it's increased and it's about 20 hours per week. Stu will be telling you a little bit more about how that will be made up and how those hours are. But typically you're going to have at least 1 8-hour day at your internship, because that's going to give you the real feel of what it's like to be a social worker full-time, working at an agency, providing the services that a social worker does. And while we talk about hours, there is a requirement of a number of hours you have to do. Really what's important is what you're able to learn during that time, what learning opportunities you have, and the ability to be able to demonstrate to yourself, to your field instructor, to your field faculty, that you have developed the competency to be a professional social worker and you're ready to graduate when you leave our program. There is one little caveat there that says PPSC for 600. So for those of you that are in the Children, Youth and Family Department and plan to be pursuing school social work and hope to get your PPSC, which is the Pupil Personnel Services credential, then you will actually need to do 600 hours in a school. So you can see that you would have to do additional hours if you either did it in your first semester or your second semester to meet that minimum number of hours. So the field is a course, as you just saw on that last slide, they had numbers at the top of that. So each of those is a course number, and you are going to be registering for that course. You're going to have a faculty member that is the lead for that course, and that is your field liaison. You're going to hear a little bit more later about the different roles and the people you're going to meet along your field journey. But let me just tell you a little bit about what it's going to look like in terms of the coursework that combines in field with your field practicum. So in your first semester, you're going to register for one course. It's called 589A, and that's your field practicum. And then in addition to that field practicum, we provide you with a lab. Your field liaison, your field faculty liaison, who's also your lab instructor, is going to meet with you and is going to be teaching you some fundamental skills of how to practice in your internship. Many of you might be feeling a little bit nervous about you're just going to start day one. And day one in your classes, we're going to send you to an agency and say, go and do social work. And you'll be like, but you haven't taught me anything yet. So in that lab, and prior to that lab, we're going to give you an orientation and some basic skills. And then during that lab, for about 2 hours each week, you're going to meet with your instructor and learn some kind of good listening skills, reflection skills, some basic kind of interventions and tools that you'll need to be able to work with clients that first semester in your field internship. In the second semester, you're going to register for 589B, which is the continuation of your field practicum. And then you're going to have one other course, which is 588 is the number, and it's integrative learning for social work practice. And this is a 2-unit course. And this is, again, where you're going to come together with your peers and with your seminar instructor. We tend to informally call it field seminar. And this is where you get to integrate a little bit more. You're going to build on those skills that you've been learning in the lab the first semester. You're going to be taking what you've been learning in that first semester in the classroom and which you're continuing to learn in the second semester. And you're going to work out, kind of integrate that and think, how is what I'm learning in the classroom relating to me in field? And how is my experiences that I'm having in my field internship informing what I'm learning in the classroom? That's why we call it an integration. This is it's an opportunity to come together each week. Students tend to really enjoy this class because they get to talk about their internships, talk about the clients they're working with, the projects that they're working on. They collaborate with each other to kind of problem solve and find solutions, share resources. You'll be in a classroom with 15 or a few more students that are all in different placements. And so you're all going to learn from those other experiences and expand your idea of what social workers can do and help improve your practice in the internship you're in. When you go into your second year, you're going to be feeling a little bit more confident. You've got 1 year of internship under your belt. You've got 1 year of learning with your peers and with your field faculty about how to practice social work in the field. And you'll now be in a second placement. You're going to enroll in 699B and 699A and 699B, which is the field practicum course. And then you're going to also have an integrative learning class to go along with that. This time we're going to start just meeting every other week. You can think of it this way: you're a little bit more confident, a little bit more competent, you're feeling a little bit more at ease practicing as a social worker, but you're still going to have some questions because you're doing a bit more advanced practice now. And so you're going to come together once a week in that seminar class, and again, talk with your peers and with your field faculty instructor to really bring it all together with what you're learning in the classroom, what you're doing in the field. And in this class as well, you're going to be thinking about graduation. As you move into the second semester, you're going to be preparing resumes, you're going to be thinking about your future professional plan and where you want to go with your career. So that's what your field education is going to look like in the curriculum across the 4 semesters. And we just like to give this visual just so that you can see what a critical part of your program and your time here at our school is going to be. You can see all the pretty colors there of how much time you're going to be in your human behavior class, how much time you're going to spend in the different electives, learning some specialty practices, how long you're going to be, how much percentage you're going to be in the diversity class, learning about policy, learning about practice, and very valuable, learning about what research can help inform your practice. All of these are going to be very exciting, informative classes that are going to give you a lot of information and a lot of skills. But 63% is you're going to be in field. You're going to be in an agency, in an internship, working out how to take all that knowledge you've got and use it for the benefit of the clients, the families, the groups, the communities that you're going to be working in. We truly are a practice profession, and so we want you to leave this program with this MSW feeling ready to practice and hit the ground running when you graduate. So we have a lot of questions about, the coronavirus, what this is going to mean now in terms of being vaccinated or not being vaccinated and going into field. Just for some background, we can let you know that this last year or so, we have had to pivot, had to do things quite differently. We've done a lot of remote services for clients. If people have been going to agencies, we've had to come up with a lot of plans and policies to make sure that students are safe. And so we are anticipating as we go into the fall here that everyone is going to be back doing in-person services unless they happen to be at an agency that is virtual only or partly is providing virtual or remote services. This slide here is kind of telling you, oh, can you go back, Sue? Sorry, that's right. This slide here is telling you about what happens in terms of coming to campus, right? So going to your internship is different than going to campus. So you can find all this information, I know, on the website. And if you are vaccinated, you have to upload proof of your vaccination. And then if you're not, you have to upload the declination and you have to do additional testing. So that's for coming to campus. Going to field is a little different, because you're going to have different policies depending on the agency that you are assigned to. So we just ask that you talk to, when you get assigned your placement, that you talk to your field instructor, talk to the agency, find out what their requirements are. Hopefully, majority of you will be vaccinated and will meet whatever criteria the organization agency may have. And if you're not, we ask that you work with us and the field faculty to help problem solve around that. So now the next slide, just to let you know in the next slide that we're really good at problem solving, because we have learned a lot from the last year and a half. And so we're going to pass on what we've learned to you all so that we can be ready, because we don't really know what's around the corner. We're all very hopeful. Will we be back on campus and things will start to look like a normal, or at least a new normal. But, we have heard of surges in other countries and other communities, and I think we just have to all be ready to be flexible. We need to be ready to pivot if needed. You may have some idea of what you think your internship is going to look like, and you're going to find out it maybe isn't going to be like that. So we're just going to ask you to embrace that flexibility, which is really a hallmark of being a social worker, is being flexible. We also need to be creative, and we found many ways in the last year and a half to create learning opportunities, again, that you may not have expected. A lot of students worked out how to support their organizations where they were working remotely by that supporting their colleagues, doing mindfulness seminars or educational seminars for their co-workers to help them cope with COVID, for example. So we just, ask you to be flexible, We are going to ask you to be creative. And we're going to let you know that there's a good chance that you are still going to be providing some services remotely when needed. I think one of the things we've all learned from COVID is there actually are more things that we can do remotely than we initially thought. Some clients have responded really well to phone, text, and video conferencing, as long as you could do that from a confidential setting in your home. You know, we still know there are some schools, for example, that are saying that that school social workers may still be providing virtual kind of telehealth, mental health counseling rather than in person starting in the fall. So, so I really, you know, would just ask you to embrace the idea that that tele-mental health services, tele-social services are really going to be something that's going to be a part of our future. And there are many benefits to this. Many of our clients are transient. Many of them may have to move to secure kind of safe living situation. And in the past, that has meant they've had to change social workers. Maybe we won't need to do that so much in the future, and we'll be able to be more accessible and more continuity of care for our clients. So I would encourage you to expect that to be part of your experience. And lastly, just if you do have health conditions that prevent you from going in person, that prevent you from maybe having the vaccine, then we please ask that you contact the disability services and programs at USC, and they can work with you on a potential accommodation. And we do have options for any students that may have limitations on being able to go into the field in person, as in person to person versus virtually. We do have a telehealth clinic that we operate, and that we actually operated long before COVID. And so we have, and there are other social service sites that have remote opportunities. So we just ask you to contact us and contact disability services if that is going to be a situation for you. So I'm now going to pass over to Dr. Hsiao, because she will be able to tell you in detail what you can expect when you get to your placement.
Thank you, Dr. Supranovich. I'm going to kind of talk more in terms of what to expect when we are starting to placing students, and then what other logistics that we want to kind of inform you in advance. Sorry. Okay. So just like Dr. Supranovich mentioned earlier, we created the field placement. I think a lot of schools may ask the student to look for your own internship, but here at USC, the faculty actually has to vet and approve the site, and that's including your MSW field instructor. So there is a minimum requirement from Council of Social Education that we need to make sure the agency can provide you the competency-based learning opportunity, as well as the field instructor has to have minimum 2 years post MSW experience. So those are being vetted before we can even consider placing students with their site. So when you get assigned to a placement, a lot of thoughts and work has been done behind the scenes. So we do ask you to be, be conscientious when we reach out to the field instructor and the agency to present yourself very professionally. So field is not only the hours. I know a lot of our site might not open the stipends or scholarship for you, but most of them provide you a very valuable workforce development. So it's like a lab that you are trained to be a professional social work. So knowing that this may be a volunteer, 16 hours for your first year internship, then we want you to make sure that you maximize your learning opportunity within that 16 hours. So the quality and the learning opportunity are the primary focus. A lot of our students do more than 210 the first semester, 240 in the second semester, because those are all more toolbox to your backpack, and then you can always pull it out for your second year placement interview. Like I mentioned earlier, later on there's a slide that talks about the 9 social work competency that's set by our Council of Social Education. So it's an educational policy and accreditation standards every social work program are held to. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then also very important, I think as a student, you can sign up to be a free member for the National Association of Social Workers. I would encourage you to do so. And we do, connect. We have our own chapter here at USC, NSW chapter here. So we really want you to really learn about the professional code of ethics. So field internship is a shared professional commitment between the agency, your field instructor, the field faculty here, and all your academic instructor, and also you. I think we're all three in the partnership. So when you get to the agency, we really want you to explore what are the learning opportunities there for you, and you need to take active role to create that learning agreement with your agency. So we expect you to be able to do that within the first 3 to 4 weeks of a new agency, so then you can be prepared for your future professional career. Quality learning opportunity usually happens during the normal business hours. A lot of our field instructor doesn't work on a weekday night, weekend. We want you to be able to embed into the agency culture, to really observe how your field instructor interact with the staff, client, the community. We want you to have all that exposure. So be mindful that, most of the agency, their normal operation hours is Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 during their normal business hours. We do have some agency that may be function in a non-traditional way, which we would try to accommodate, but just be mindful that, the agency that's operating on the weekday night and weekend had a reduced staff and reduced kind of support. So we want to make sure that you will also stay in the field internship. Like Professor Supranovich mentioned about minimum 1 8-hour day. Potentially you could have 2 4-hour day equal 16 hours a week. So, but that's kind of based on the agency's need and also the students. So we'll try our best to accommodate. So here is the 9 competencies. So for courses that you're taking, each course may select one of these competencies to focus on. Like, for example, your human behavior, maybe really teaching you how you work with different diversity, different age group, differences in your practices. And then your policy may talk about how did you practice your policy, how did you work at the agency, knowing what policy the agency has, and also the state level, the national level, what are the policy that's impacting your clients. So as you can see, the first 5 competencies, demonstrating ethical and professional behavior, this is really crucial because your social work field instructor is going to be really demonstrating, really helping, guiding you. How can you be, professionally in the internship? How did you interact with your client, agency staff, field instructor? How did you, perform ethically in your communications, or what are the ethical dilemma that you may have? How can you manage your self-care? How did you balance your personal value versus professional value? So that's really crucial in the competency number 1. And we spend a lot of time in your first semester making sure that you understand what social work professional is about, because some of you may not come from that social service experience, but we welcome the diversity, just like competency number 2. We want the student to come from different variety of different experience, different expertise, so we can all learn from each other. And then very important is really how you advance human rights, social, economic, and environmental justice. And that's going to be really a focus for us. We're in the process of really adding all the anti-racism, diversity, inclusion in all our curriculum. So you'll be having the chance to really kind of work with that and really kind of practice that in field. Here at USC, we teach you 2 to 3 evidence-based. So you will have a chance on August 25th. That's the first week of class is August 23rd. So on August 23rd, you have a field orientation, really kind of catch you up what you need to know before you enter agency. On August 25th, you'll receive a motivation interviewing. So I just want to make sure, even though you're not technically in the internship the first week of class, you will have that field orientation on Monday, and then also that motivation interviewing on Wednesday. We want to make sure you get enough skill training on the reflective learning tool, reflective learning listening skill, and then 5 crucial skills for motivation interviewing to prepare you before you enter field internship on August 30th. So make sure you pencil down those schedule and we'll send out the email to make sure that you know who and how to get those training. And then the rest of the competency is really how to engage, how to assess, how to intervene, and how to evaluate your practice with individual, family, groups, organization, and community. You'll learn more about this. I'm not going to label over it, but I just want to give you a quick overview on it. Department selection. So before you admitted to our program, you already select your department. So you either select children, youth, and family, adult mental health and wellness, or social change and innovation. So your placement is going to determine by your department. And that also your first semester is going to be very general courses, human behavior, policy, research, practice, field practicum. So those are going to be your generous practice for your first semester. Your second semester, you'll be entering the department courses. And then we would like you to also start engaging much more advanced practice. So that is going to be determined. And so that the placement site we're looking for and matching you is going to be really department specific. So here's are the three departments, the tracks. I think Professor Supranovich mentioned that we are open for children, youth, and family students to select for pupil service credential, pupil service personnel service credential. So if you have a chance to have interest in working in schools, it's going to be a very great training, but we're looking for students that are experienced and really be able to handle being at the school site. So make sure you let us know. You'll receive a survey, hopefully, pretty quick to invite you to come to information section. We have some mandatory social work placement that most likely is second year track, but in case we didn't maximize all the placement slot, that's also available for first year students. So if you're interested in those, then we do have a few, and we can when we do the placement process, let us know your interest. So here is our team. Very mighty, a powerful team. They're going to be very busy. They already started the process, reviewing some of the field placement form, and then also your resume. So if you need to update your resume, update your location, please let us know, because based on your geographic area and also your resume, your personal statement, that's how we proceed with the matching process. So for adult mental health and wellness, we'll have 3 placement teams. Jennifer and Phil and Pam, they're on the adult mental health team. And then when we assign the student, they'll reach out to you to let you know they are going to be your contact. For children, youth, and families, we have Christina, Tina, Maria, Deborah, and Raphael. So we have a larger children, youth, and family student needs to place. So here is the team that's going to be working with you. For social change and innovation, we have Rick. So he'll be placing all the social change and innovation students. And they'll be reaching out. I think we're just waiting to make sure we got all the list students, so possible in June or so, you'll receive an email introduction. So if you're a children, youth, and family department, if you're interested in working in school, it does require you to complete 20 hours a week internship versus 16 hours in order for you to get to the 600 in the second semester. And so this is a credential that's required by California teacher credential. They're both certified for school social work and child welfare attendance. And this is required by California Commission of Teacher Credentialing. It is required for you to have a CTC clearance, background screening, before you can earn your credential. So this had to be done before you start your internship. But if you would like to learn more about the application process, how to earn your credential, we will send that survey out to you for children, youth, and family students. The deadline for your application is set for June 15th, and we'll make a final determination by July 15th. So watch out that survey and complete it as you know. Usually in the internship, I think both clinical assignment, it started with maybe like orientation for most agencies. And they will probably give you a time to really get training, learn about the agency culture, reviewing all the policy procedures. But typically you probably start getting your client maybe end of September, October. And then the learning agreement will be due in October. This is when you can talk about what kind of learning opportunity your field instructor and agency can offer you. So the learning agreement will be due in the first week or second week of October. So we know what the student is going to be learning, what you're going to be doing. So your faculty liaison, your seminar instructor would know exactly what to expect. And then maybe by November, December, then you build up your caseload. They are not going to give you the whole caseload at the beginning. I think depends on your learning needs. You'll have some time to shadow the field instructor or all the agency staff. And then so gradually you'll build up your caseload. We hope that you can develop a caseload close to maybe 50% of your time in the internship, that you will be working individually with group or individual with group or any kind of productive kind of caseload and learning opportunity. The rest of the time can be spent on supervision, 1 hour a week, or some agency offer group supervision. So it depends on your structure of the agency, and you can get either individual, group supervision, or maybe a combination both. So we want you to be able to kind of talk about that. When are you supposed to meet with your field instructor or preceptor? And when are you supposed to submit your reflective learning tool or agency documentation? So those are going to be detailed in your learning agreement. We like for you to really, we look at your geographic area. Like, for example, if you live in LA, we're not going to send you to the, the valley that's way beyond 30 miles radius. And we understand LA traffic, even though maybe 10 miles away, it might take you 30 minutes or 40 minutes. So the placement team will try to map out the distance. And then we also look at the traffic to make sure that you're not going to spend all day in, commuting to and from your agency. So we are very mindful, but it depends on the where you live. Sometimes there's some limitations on how available the agency option is. So we ask you to be flexible. If that's the case, we'll make sure we have a discussion with you in terms of geographic area. So issue that may kind of impact the placement process is we expect you to be very professional. Any email communication, any verbal communication, any written communication, we really want you to be professional. The first minute you start engaging the field internship, or even with the placement team, the staff and faculty, we want this to be a collaborative learning community. And then we also wanted to let you know it's going to be doing Monday to Friday, 8 to 5 type of agency schedule. So if you have any limited field availability, if you're working or you have some other, circumstances, make sure we're aware of it. We'll try, but I think that would limit your field option if you have limited availability for field internship. We suggest you not to move during the year because the agency is a 1-year commitment, 2 semesters. So when you move, we need to keep the commitment with the agency. We would want you to continue with the same agency for your second semester. So if you need to relocate, be mindful, it is a 2-semester commitment, just like your seminar, your lab instructor, and then your spring semester, you'll be assigning to the same field liaison and same instructor. So when you register for your field courses, make sure this is a 2-semester commitment, unless you have very urgent family urgency or somehow, then we may be able to let you switch, but it is a 2-semester commitment for both your internship and your field seminar. Some of the students want to change their department in the mid-year. We have a few every year. So if you're really interested in changing your department, make sure that you let us know as early as you can, because once you go into your department course in January, it's really hard to change it back, to change any department. And I know a lot of students kind of vacillating, I want adult mental health, but I also want children, youth, and family, and I want SCI. So a lot of students go through that, difficulty in terms of picking the right department. But I just want to assure you, you'll be learning all the foundational skill and knowledge as an MSW student. The department would be good, but I think when you go out to your real world, we want to build you as a very comprehensive social work practitioner. So micro, meso, and macro, we want you to have all the experience throughout the MSW training. So department may not be as difficult as you think. I think it's the experience that you're getting from your internship that's going to determine your professional career. If you can submit your field placement form, I know our admission office has been kind of reaching out to students that have not completed the form. We need that form in order for us to match the agency for you. So as fast as you can, as early as you can, please complete that form and upload your resume. There is other agency that have a lot of extensive placement onboarding process, especially if you're working in a health or working in school. Their onboarding process is long, like the background screening may take 3 to 4 weeks. So as soon as you interview the agency, as soon as you get notifications and meet with the agency, then please proceed with those onboarding requirements. Sometimes it takes a long time, and that will impact you starting your internship on time. Geographic area, I think we talked about the placement. We'll try to, accommodate within 30 miles of radius, but sometimes if that's not possible, we would, have a conversation with the student. Some agency may have very particular criteria, what kind of students fit the agency population and their services. So if that's the case, no worry. Our placement team would be glad to kind of reassign or replace you. That's not an issue. So a lot of agency really ask maybe bilingual, maybe a certain ethnic background and experience. We have a lot of students that come from foster youth or have experience food and housing insecurity, or maybe have some lived experience. We take all that into consideration. We have a lot of agencies that are open to hosting students that have those kind of experience. They feel this is great because they're working with a population and they would like to have a social work student that have similar experience that can really empower their clients. So we do have a lot of options for that as well. If you need any field accommodation, Professor Supranovich mentioned about the accommodation from disability office. Reach out to them because then we can kind of start a conversation early on. I know you may not be able to get official accommodation for field internship before we place you, but let us know. We can start working with them closely and then be able to accommodate whatever you need. Student background check. It's not required for our program, but a lot of agency has to require that. We do not pay for it, and we do not, provide any background screening for the agency. We encourage the student to really check that out during your pre-placement interview to kind of make sure that you have all the information you need to proceed the onboarding process. And if you have any concern, difficulty with any of those onboarding process, our placement team are there to help you problem solve together. Like Professor Supranovich said, we're a very good problem solver. So we will help you get through this as fast as we can. We want to make sure you're placed on time and start on time. So all the costs will be covered by you, including the credential process, TB test, medical clearance, any kind of background screening. So be sure you allocate funds for those. And then a lot of agencies also not providing the travel, like the mileage and parking. So during your interview, your pre-placement interview, once you get the notification, please ask all that question. We will give you a 2 sample. One is for virtual pre-placement interview. One is for in-person pre-placement interview. So you have option to decide because some of the agency may be transitioned back to in-person. Some may still remain on virtual, online. So we want to make sure that you ask all the questions, including the COVID-19 policy, procedure, what kind of safety precaution that you have. So those are very important. And then for students may have some lived experience that you may want to kind of check out our resources. We have an Chen scholar that work really specifically with students that may have some background issues or some lived experience that may impact the internship or future employment, and they're here to support you. And then in addition to that, we also have a National Association of Social Workers. They have a Council of Rehabilitation and Inclusion, and they get a lot of support and mentorship to students that may have some challenges. So make sure you reach out to them if you need. So this is kind of the timeline. So now we're in May, so we're hoping that we can get a list of the student to start reviewing your placement form, and then also your resume, and then your survey responses. From June to August, our job is not done until we place every student. And there's going to be a lot of back and forth, because we're also not only placing our students, but we're also have to work with the surrounding 12 additional MSW program in the area. So agency may say, I have a slot, but by the time you get to them, then they say, oh, the slot got filled. But no worry, just come back to us, we'll replace. Things are moving fast during June and August, but we're here to support and make sure that every student have a very solid placement. Look at your USC email, make sure you check it on a regular basis. Your placement matching notification is going to be sent by your USC email. So once you receive that email notification, make sure you schedule the pre-placement interview as soon as possible, for the fact that, we're looking at how fast we can move the placement process. When the slot is filled, we go to the next agency. So make sure that we keep that in a very timely manner. So if you can reach out to the agency within 72 hours, as soon as you can, that would be really awesome. And then just like, your first interview, pre-placement interview, it's just like interviewing a job. So we would expect you to make us proud to be a very professional children's student. So we want you to be dressed up very professionally, right on time if you're going to in person or via Zoom. We want you to be ready to provide a copy of resume. So those are really kind of quick, but if you want to get some more training, or you want to kind of look at some of the webinar recording that we have in the past, here is the webinar that you can go in and review in terms of how to prepare for your resume, how to interview. There's a lot of interview coaching resources up there, so make sure you visit that site before your pre-placement interview. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Dr. Supranovich, to cover the next couple of slides.
Okay, so really these slides just tell you about some of the organizations that kind of support you during your journey. The Council of Social Work Education, you've heard us talk about, and this is the entity that provides accreditation to schools of social work and has specific requirements for field. And if you're wondering why we're doing what we're doing and why you're being asked to do certain things, it will give you the background there. The National Association of Social Work, you're going to hear more from that organization as you go through the orientation. I encourage you to join as a student because it's got a greatly reduced price. And they really provide a lot of support and training, and that's really the body that generated and updates the code of ethics by which we our profession is guided. There is also two other entities that you'll want to know more about, or when you're looking to pursue your license, if that's something you want to do. When you graduate from our program, you will have your master's in social work, but this does not, this is just the beginning of your journey, is if your goal is to be a licensed clinical social worker. And then you will need to do another 2 years of gaining experience in the field, seeing clients, and there's other criteria that you'll have to fulfill. And you can find out about that from the ASWB and the BBSC. And we've got more information through our website, and our alumni services will also help and guide you through there. I know that there are a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know if we have any more slides, do we, Sue? No, we're finished with those. Just one of the things that, I just wanted to share in terms of my educational experience, which I graduated many years ago now, and and I would just say that when I think back about my MSW degree, I had some great courses, I had some great instructors, but really what I remember, what really is indelible in my memory, is my field experience. That was where I really learned the most and made my connections. In fact, two of my first jobs that I had in social work both came from the 2 different internships that I had. And then other jobs I had were for connections through them. I then went on to be a field instructor, and I loved that because then I got to give back to the profession, and I also got to keep on my toes because I had students with me and I was learning from them. And so really full circle to then come and now be working in field education. So I just want to encourage you to embrace this part of your degree. Couple of other slides there, I think just had some information for you, and I think the slide deck is going to be available for the students. And I think we're getting down to time, so I want to make sure that there's time for us to answer any of the questions that are still looming there, Ron.
Dr. Supranovich, we do have a few questions in the Q&A pod. Let me go ahead and read those out to you. Some of them I did answer. I'll cover those afterwards. But the first question is, if we have completed the form already but are still unsure of our living situation and address, will we have to resubmit the form?
Go ahead.
No, you don't need to resubmit your form. Just email us, social work field, SSW field, with your new address. So update us when you have your new address.
Perfect. Here's another question. Is it possible to do both the PPSC and the military track?
Very limited. You might have to select if you want to do a military placement first year, PPSC second year, or vice versa. We will try to see if we can accommodate that, but not in one, right?
I did see that there was a question about the PPSC hours and when to apply for your second year. There are some limited options to be able to do your PPSC in the first year. And there are very few first year military placements. Those are more going to be for your second year. So I think if you go to the website, you can find out. I don't know if the date has passed, but there's an application process if you want to do your PPSC in the first year. And you have to kind of have some experience. So if you don't have any experience at all, it can be hard to get into that particular program.
Next question
So
here. We have, go ahead.
Sorry. So Professor Maria, who is going to send out the survey for CYF students to select PPSC. So that survey is going to come up, so that you need to require to attend the information meeting first before you can apply by June 15th.
Thanks, Sue.
Next question. Will we be given information, email, name of our field agency supervisor, etc., for setting up the interview?
Yes. So when you get the email notification for placement matching, that's where your field instructor's name, contact information will be in that email. So you would have to contact them via that connection there.
There is a question that I answered already, but I want to repeat this to another folks might be in need of this information. I sent in my field placement form, but I did not get any confirmation. Will we be notified if we are missing the form? And most definitely, yes. As a matter of fact, I send out those emails to students. I've sent out 2 email notifications to students already who've not completed that form. So you do not receive a confirmation of submission of that form, but you will be notified if you're missing that form. So I will reach out to you. Again, if you have a USC email account, it will typically be sent to that. So as the professors had mentioned earlier, please check your USC email addresses. The other one I mentioned was, or that I answered, let's see, where did it go? Does the field placement schedule apply to students enrolling in the 6th semester program? And when would that field placement start in the 6th semester program? And so in your first year of courses, in your first year of the program, there is no field experience, no field internship. The timeline is consistent but with your second year. And so it's same timeline, but you will be notified by the field education office for the 6th semester students who begin their internship in years 2 and then complete that in year 3.
So for 6th semester students, there is going to be an advisement webinar in January or February. So that's when you're going to learn your placement process. So we'll send that notification out to invite you to that webinar.
I did see there was a question, Ron, about a list of agencies, and we don't provide a list of placement agencies for the first year. For the second year, there's a little bit more, the process is a little bit different because at that point there are certain sites that will only take second year students. And so then the matching process involves some selection by the students, but I certainly don't mind, and I'm sure Sue won't mind, just giving some examples of the types of places where you might be doing your internship hours. I mean, I'll throw it, you might be working for a homeless agency that's serving people that are trying to seek housing. You may be in a shelter for runaway youth. You may be schools. You may be in a school providing school social work. You could be, boy, what are other ones, Sue, to throw out, rather than give I hate to give agency names because I don't want people to put their hopes on, I'm going to go to this particular agency, but maybe kind of the types of things you might be doing. What else might they be doing, Sue?
We have the law enforcement. We have some, non-traditional school, that maybe public health. We have a few public health programs coming in. We have health. We have some primary care setting. We have a lot of mental health agency. They want to work with our students. So if you're interested in substance abuse, behavioral health, I mean, in general, we have a variety of different kind of agencies. Some are aging. If you're interested in working with older adults, we have a lot of aging, housing, Section 8 housing, homeless, permanent housing or temporary housing, domestic shelter, homeless shelter. So all kinds of different agency available. I do want to respond. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was just going to say, I would expect for the most part, and this isn't 100%, for the most part in your first year, you're probably going to be doing what we call case management. It's unlikely that you're going to be expected to be a therapist from the first day you walk into the office. But so you're likely to be doing case management. You're likely to be doing some involvement with the community, maybe some education, some classes, some groups, those kind of things.
Here's another question.
So I see.
Go ahead.
Okay. I see a couple of questions I want to respond to. The working professional and sixth semester student, your field placement form, we will request you to complete later on when we're ready to review your placement information. So look at those emails later on. And then we do have agencies that work with gender, LGBT, or anti-racism. We have those agencies as well. If you're interested in more macro community-based, we have them as well.
Last one looks like, could you please go over again what the process may look like if we are not accepted to a field agency our first year?
You will be given one, at least minimum, will match you with a field agency. So sometimes it's just a matter of the timing, the slot, so we will make sure we place you for first year. Your second year, you have the option to interview agency. So it's a mutual matching process. The first year is assigned based on, because you're coming into the program later in the semester, there's not enough time to offer that. So first year internships are assigned based on your resume, your personal statements, and, your geographic area.
And if I might add, they're also assigned based on your department. So I saw a question about if you're an AMHW, might I be placed with children? And no, that would be unlikely. You're going to be placed in an agency that matches the department because you're going to be in your department by your second semester and you're going to be in the same agency throughout. All of the first year placements will have, however, particularly in that first semester, will have client contact. So if you're in the Sky department, we won't start doing more of your kind of macro work until the second semester. Because we want everybody to have an opportunity during that first semester to work, to learn foundational social work practice skills with individuals and families.
So just to add, I think adult mental health students could be placed in possible for transitional age youth group, 16 to 25, because they can meet both children, youth and family, adult mental health. And some of the school districts have parent center. So you may be working in a school, but you're working with the parents, adults. So there is different way how we make sure that you can meet your department requirements.
Professors, we have two questions here. If we're interested in the PPSC, should we wait for the email about the info session before applying?
Yes.
Perfect. And
look at the survey.
The survey, yes, perfect. In the chat box, we have a question that says, can a second year placement be different from the first year's?
Yes, it probably should be. I mean, it's very rare that you're in the same placement. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but usually that's just because the student is requesting it. You're going to be having a different experience in your second year, and ideally you're going to have 2 different experiences. So yes, it will be different from the first year.
So
What happened-
agency may have, different programs. So they may have first year student working on case management, but their second year may be transition to more primary therapist role. So we have some agency and student that decided to remain in the agency, a mutual arrange. So, but we like for you to also interview different agency before you make that final decision and final match.
Here's another general question. What happens if some social work classes are taught on the days we are supposed to be in our field agency?
Good question.
So your internship right now, I think your courses are on Friday
Tuesdays
and
and Fridays,
Tuesday.
right?
Tuesdays, right. So your internship are scheduled on Monday and Wednesday, especially Wednesday. Wednesday is a common day with all the MSW program. Students are in field on Wednesday. So a lot of the training, supervision are done on Wednesday. So I want to make sure that you at least know it's Monday, Wednesday. Unless your class is on a different day, you may be available for Tuesday or Thursday, but that's where you do the pre-placement interview and you work on and confirm the schedule.
It says, do we have to indicate interest in the PPSC on our application, or will everyone receive the survey?
Everyone from CYF student up to a certain point receive that survey to inquire your interest for PPSC.
Excellent. Let's see. Who is a good person to email to hear more about the anti-racist LGBTQ agencies?
When you are assigned to a faculty member for placement, that would be the perfect person to let them know.
And last question, looks like here, we're almost out of time. What are some examples of field placements for first-year adult mental health and wellness students?
So we have a lot of homeless shelter, permanent housing, and also we have a lot of mental health setting, a lot of like a community mental health setting, and also we have some substance abuse program, urgent care, primary care setting. So right now we're matching all the second year student right now. So we don't know once the matching is done for the second year, then whichever that we have, then that will be available for first year student. We're also actively reaching out to agency. We haven't heard back. So we're in the process of really expanding more placement options, but more likely will be in like some kind of mental health, behavioral health, homeless shelter, homeless agency that you will use your skill set.
I would also really encourage you, sorry, I was
Right,
just
okay.
I would say I would really encourage you to embrace whatever your first year placement is. It's your foundational learning. It's how to learn how to be a generic social worker. And just know that the second year is when you're going to get to really pick, this is the place I want to learn from. And that's where you're going to get your advanced practice. So just have an open mind in your first year and know that you're going to have a chance in your second year. And then you'll have some chance to learn and you may refine or change what it is that you think you want to do.
Looks like the last question. This will be, it's 1 o'clock now, so this will be the last question here. Will any field placements be remote due to COVID? And I believe you covered this throughout the presentation.
Some of the health setting will require students go in person, but provide remote with the client contact. So it depends on the agency. There's different models.
Excellent. And there was a comment in the chat box that I saw, and I believe my colleague provided the information. But one of them asked, where do we send our updated resume to? And that would be sswfield@usc.edu. Again, that's sswfield@usc.edu. Well, that would conclude our presentation for today. I would like to thank Dr. Hsiao, Dr. Supranovich for your wonderful information, your insight, your expertise. Thank you, students, for attending the webinar today. For those of you that might have missed a portion of this, or for students that have missed all of this, we will post the recording once available on our Student Success website. So for those of you that have any other questions, you can direct those, if they're specific to the field education office, to sswfield@usc.edu. If you have a general question and not sure exactly where to go, you can always email the admissions office, apply msw@usc.edu, and we can direct you to the appropriate department. Everyone have a wonderful day. Thank you very much. Right on.